If you've ever finished lunch only to feel sleepy, unfocused, or strangely hungry again an hour later, you may have blamed your age, your schedule, or simply getting older. Maybe you've even wondered whether your body just doesn't have the same energy it used to. But what if none of those explanations were actually the real reason? What if the biggest mistake most people make after eating has nothing to do with what they eat, and everything to do with what they do next? Here's something that surprised even many medical researchers. Deep inside your lower leg is a small muscle that most people have never heard of. You can't see it in the mirror, you probably can't name it, and chances are you've never intentionally used it. Yet scientists discovered that activating this hidden muscle may help your body remove glucose from your bloodstream with remarkable efficiency, even while you're sitting in a chair. That sounds almost too simple to believe. But today's video isn't about shortcuts or miracle cures. It's about understanding how your body was designed to manage energy, and why one overlooked habit after meals could quietly influence your long-term metabolic health. I'm Dr. James Carter, and today we're going to break down the science in plain English. You'll learn why so many adults experience fatigue after meals, why sugar cravings seem impossible to control, what researchers discovered about a little-known muscle in the lower leg, and most importantly, how you can use that knowledge in everyday life. Before we go any further, it's important to clear up one common misunderstanding. Many people think glucose is something dangerous that should always be avoided. That's simply not true. Glucose is one of the most important fuels your body has. Every heartbeat, every thought, every step you take depends on it. Your brain, in particular, relies heavily on a steady supply of glucose because, unlike many other organs, it has very limited energy storage of its own. Without enough glucose, concentration fades, reaction time slows, and mental performance begins to suffer. The goal isn't to eliminate glucose. The goal is to keep it under control. Problems begin when large amounts of glucose enter your bloodstream faster than your body can comfortably handle. That sudden surge forces your system to respond quickly, and over time, those repeated responses may place increasing pressure on your metabolism. The surprising part is that many people don't realize this process is happening. They simply notice the symptoms: feeling exhausted after lunch, struggling to stay awake during afternoon meetings, reaching for another coffee or something sweet just to make it through the day. It feels normal because it happens so often, but normal doesn't always mean healthy. And here's where today's story becomes even more interesting. The rise in blood sugar isn't actually the part that causes most people to feel miserable. What happens immediately afterward is where the real problem begins. To understand why so many people experience that afternoon slump, we first need to look at what happens inside the body every time we eat. Imagine your body as a city powered by electricity. Every building, every traffic light, every hospital depends on a steady supply of energy to keep functioning. Glucose is one of the primary fuels that keeps this city running. When you eat foods containing carbohydrates, whether it's bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, fruit, or desserts, your digestive system gradually breaks those foods down into glucose. That glucose then enters your bloodstream where it becomes available for your cells to use. This is a completely natural process. In fact, it's exactly what your body is designed to do. The challenge begins when too much glucose arrives in the bloodstream over a short period of time. Your body immediately recognizes the increase and sends a signal to a small organ located behind your stomach, the pancreas. The pancreas responds by releasing insulin, a hormone that acts like a guide rather than a transporter. Its job is to help glucose leave the bloodstream and enter cells where it can be used for energy or stored for later. Some of that glucose is delivered to your muscles, where it becomes fuel for movement. Some is stored in the liver as glycogen, a reserve your body can access between meals or during physical activity. But when those storage spaces are already well supplied and you're spending the next hour sitting at your desk, watching television, or driving home, your body has another decision to make. It doesn't want extra glucose remaining in the bloodstream for long, so it stores much of the excess elsewhere. Over time, that often means increased fat storage. At first, insulin successfully lowers blood sugar back toward normal levels. Sometimes, however, it lowers those levels faster than your brain would prefer. That's when many people experience what feels like an energy collapse. Suddenly, your concentration fades. Your eyelids become heavy. Simple tasks require more effort. You feel an overwhelming urge to grab another snack, usually something sweet or high in refined carbohydrates. Many people interpret this as a lack of self-control, but in many cases, it's simply biology. Your brain depends on a reliable supply of energy. When blood sugar begins dropping quickly, it responds by encouraging behaviors that restore that energy as fast as possible. That's why cravings often appear so suddenly. Let's consider a common example. Sarah is a 46-year-old elementary school teacher. Every afternoon, about an hour after lunch, she notices the same pattern. Her focus begins to disappear. Grading papers becomes harder, and she finds herself walking to the staff lounge looking for cookies or candy. For years, Sarah believed she simply lacked discipline. She blamed herself for making poor food choices. What she didn't realize was that her body had been repeating the same metabolic pattern almost every afternoon. A rapid rise in blood sugar followed by a sharp decline that left her brain searching for quick energy again. This cycle can repeat day after day without attracting much attention because the symptoms seem ordinary. People assume afternoon fatigue is just part of getting older, but repeated blood sugar swings may gradually place increasing demands on the body's metabolic system. Fortunately, understanding this cycle is the first step toward changing it, because the occasional afternoon crash isn't the biggest concern. The bigger issue is what years of repeating this pattern may be doing silently beneath the surface. So, what happens if this pattern repeats over and over again for years? One afternoon energy crash may not seem like a big deal. Neither does reaching for a cookie every day at 3 o'clock. But your body remembers every single one of those moments. Every time blood sugar rises sharply, your pancreas is asked to work. It releases insulin, helping move glucose from your bloodstream into your cells. In a healthy body, this system is remarkably efficient. It responds quickly, restores balance, and prepares for the next meal. The problem begins when this demand never seems to stop. Imagine asking someone to lift heavy boxes every single day without giving them enough time to recover. At first, they perform the task with ease. Months later, they become tired. Years later, the same workload feels much harder. Your pancreas faces a similar challenge. Over time, your cells may gradually become less responsive to insulin. Doctors call this insulin resistance. Think of insulin as someone knocking on the front door of a house. In the beginning, the door opens immediately. After years of repeated knocking, the occupants become slower to answer. Eventually, the same knock produces very little response. The insulin is still there. The message is still being sent, but the cells don't react as efficiently as they once did. To compensate, the pancreas produces even more insulin. For a while, this works surprisingly well. That's why many people spend years believing everything is perfectly normal. Routine blood tests may still fall within the reference range. Friends and family assume nothing is wrong. Even annual physical exams may not reveal anything alarming, yet subtle warning signs often appear long before a diagnosis. You gain weight more easily despite eating similar meals. Your waistline slowly expands. You feel hungry again shortly after finishing lunch. Afternoon fatigue becomes a regular part of your day. Your cravings become stronger, not weaker. Many people blame themselves. They think they simply lack motivation. But in reality, their metabolism may already be working much harder behind the scenes. I remember a fictional example that illustrates this perfectly. David was a 54-year-old financial consultant who believed his biggest health problem was simply getting older. He wasn't overweight enough to concern his doctor. His fasting glucose was technically normal. He exercised occasionally on weekends. But every afternoon he found himself searching for snacks, and by early evening he felt mentally exhausted, despite spending most of the day sitting at a desk. When additional testing was eventually performed, the picture became much clearer. His body had already begun developing insulin resistance. Nothing dramatic had happened overnight. It had developed quietly over many years through thousands of ordinary meals and thousands of ordinary afternoons. This is why early prevention matters so much. Waiting until diabetes develops means you're reacting to the problem. Helping your body manage glucose more efficiently before that point means you're protecting your metabolism while it still has tremendous ability to adapt. Fortunately, your body has another tool available. And surprisingly, it has nothing to do with another supplement, another restrictive diet, or spending hours inside a gym. The answer has been with you your entire life. It's built directly into your muscles. Let's take a closer look at what your muscles actually do after you eat. Most people think muscles only exist to help us move. They help us walk, climb stairs, lift groceries, or get out of a chair. But muscles perform another job that receives far less attention. They are one of the largest consumers of glucose in the entire body. Every muscle cell contains tiny structures whose job is to convert nutrients into usable energy. You don't need to remember complicated biological terms to understand what matters. The important point is this: when a muscle is resting, its energy demand is relatively low. When that muscle begins contracting, even gently, its demand for fuel increases almost immediately. That fuel comes largely from glucose. Here's where the science becomes especially interesting. Most of the time, insulin helps move glucose into cells. However, contracting muscle has another remarkable ability. As muscles begin working, they activate additional biological pathways that allow significantly more glucose to enter the muscle where it can be used as fuel. Instead of remaining in the bloodstream, that glucose is put to work producing movement. This means physical activity doesn't simply burn calories, it also changes where glucose goes inside your body. The timing of that movement matters as well. The first hour or so after eating is when glucose is actively entering your bloodstream. Giving your muscles something to do during this period allows them to use part of that incoming glucose almost immediately. Instead of forcing your pancreas to handle everything alone, your muscles begin sharing the workload. Researchers around the world have been studying this relationship for years. One particularly fascinating investigation focused on a muscle that most people have never heard of. Hidden beneath the larger calf muscle is a smaller muscle called the soleus. Although it isn't especially noticeable from the outside, it plays a unique role because it contains muscle fibers designed for long periods of continuous activity. Researchers at the University of Houston became interested in whether activating this muscle in a very specific way could improve how the body handled glucose after meals. Participants performed a simple seated heel-raising movement while remaining in their chairs. The results attracted significant attention. Compared with remaining completely still, participants experienced substantially smaller rises in post-meal blood glucose, while the amount of insulin required to manage that glucose was also noticeably reduced. That doesn't mean this movement replaces medication. It doesn't cure diabetes, and it certainly isn't a miracle exercise. What it demonstrates is something much more practical. Even gentle muscle activity can meaningfully influence how your body processes the food you eat. Perhaps the most encouraging part is that this strategy doesn't require exceptional fitness. You don't need to run 5 miles. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't even need to leave your chair. But there is one important detail. Simply knowing about the soleus muscle isn't enough. Using it correctly, at the right time, and making it part of your daily routine is what turns scientific knowledge into real-world results. In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to perform this movement correctly, the most common mistakes people make, and why just 10 to 15 minutes after a meal may have a bigger impact than most people realize. Now that you understand why your muscles play such an important role in blood sugar control, the next question becomes surprisingly simple. What should you actually do after you finish a meal? Many people assume they need an intense workout to make a meaningful difference. Fortunately, that's not what the research suggests. Your goal isn't to exhaust yourself. Your goal is to wake your muscles up. Think of your muscles like employees waiting for work. If they remain idle after a meal, much of the incoming glucose has nowhere productive to go. But the moment they begin contracting, even gently, they immediately start demanding more energy. That's exactly what we want. Let's begin with the simplest technique. Sit comfortably in a chair with both feet resting flat on the floor. Keep the balls of your feet and your toes in contact with the ground. Now slowly lift your heels as high as feels comfortable. Pause briefly, then lower them back down under control. That's 1 repetition. There's no need to rush. In fact, slower is usually better because it keeps the muscle working continuously instead of relying on momentum. You should feel the muscles in the back of your lower legs becoming active, but you shouldn't feel pain. If you have limited mobility, recovering from an injury, or simply don't enjoy traditional exercise, this movement offers a practical starting point because almost anyone can perform it while reading, watching television, working at a computer, or talking on the phone. Timing matters more than intensity. Rather than waiting an hour or two after eating, try beginning within about 20 to 30 minutes after finishing your meal. That's when your body is actively processing incoming glucose, giving your muscles the opportunity to use some of that fuel immediately. You don't have to perform hundreds of repetitions. Aim for about 10 to 15 minutes of comfortable, continuous movement. Consistency is far more valuable than perfection. Many people ask me whether they should perform this after every meal. The answer depends on your lifestyle. If you spend most of your day sitting, using this movement after your largest meal is an excellent place to begin. As it becomes part of your routine, adding it after breakfast or lunch may provide additional benefits. Remember, you're not trying to burn as many calories as possible. You're creating small opportunities throughout the day for your muscles to participate in glucose regulation. That shift in mindset makes a tremendous difference. Instead of thinking about exercise as something you either succeed or fail at, think of movement as something your body appreciates every single time you do it. Even 5 extra minutes of muscle activity is almost always better than remaining completely still. But here's something even more important. The soleus muscle is powerful, yet it isn't designed to do all the work by itself. Your body contains more than 600 muscles, and when more of them begin working together, the metabolic benefits become even greater. So let's look at 3 additional habits that can easily fit into an ordinary day. The first habit is one of the oldest pieces of health advice in the world, and modern science continues to support it. Take a walk after eating. Not a power walk, not a 5-mile hike. Just a comfortable walk that allows your legs to move continuously. When people hear the word exercise, many immediately picture crowded gyms, expensive equipment, or exhausting workouts. But walking asks very little from your body while giving quite a lot in return. Each step activates muscles throughout your calves, thighs, hips, and core. Together, those muscles begin drawing more glucose out of the bloodstream to support movement. Even 10 minutes can make a meaningful difference when practiced consistently. The second habit is especially useful if you have limited time. Body weight squats. Don't worry about performing them perfectly. You don't need to squat deeply or move quickly. The objective isn't athletic performance. It's simply activating some of the largest muscles in your body. Your thighs and glute muscles are incredibly effective at using glucose because of their size. Perform 8 to 10 slow, controlled squats while holding onto a sturdy chair or kitchen counter if needed. If squats aren't comfortable because of knee or hip problems, standing up from a chair and sitting back down several times creates a similar effect. Always choose the version that feels safe for your body. The third habit surprises many people. Household chores. Think about what usually happens after dinner. Many families clear the table, wash dishes, wipe countertops, fold laundry, or tidy the kitchen. These activities may not feel like exercise, but your muscles don't care what you call the movement. They simply respond to the work they're being asked to do. Standing, reaching, bending, carrying light objects, and walking around the house all require energy. Performed shortly after a meal, those ordinary activities become another opportunity to help your body process glucose more efficiently. This is one reason I encourage patients to avoid spending the first 30 minutes after dinner completely motionless on the sofa whenever possible. Small movements repeated every day often produce more lasting results than ambitious exercise plans that only happen once or twice a week. There's another reason these habits become increasingly valuable as we get older. Beginning around the age of 40, adults naturally start losing muscle mass unless they actively work to preserve it. This gradual process, known as sarcopenia, doesn't happen overnight. Year by year, muscle tissue slowly declines. Because muscle is one of the body's largest destinations for glucose, losing muscle means reducing one of your greatest metabolic advantages. That's why strength, mobility, and regular movement become more important with age, not less. The encouraging news is that muscle remains remarkably adaptable throughout life. Whether you're 50, 60, 70, or beyond, your muscles continue responding to regular use. They don't expect perfection. They simply respond to consistency. And when consistent movement becomes part of your daily routine, the benefits extend far beyond blood sugar alone. Many people notice steadier energy, fewer afternoon cravings, better endurance, improved balance, and greater confidence in everyday activities. In the final part of this video, I'll bring everything together into one simple daily routine that you can realistically follow, along with a few important conversations you should consider having with your healthcare provider to better understand your own metabolic health. Let's bring everything we've discussed together into one simple question. What can you realistically start doing today? Not next Monday, not after the holidays, not when life becomes less busy. Today. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to improve their health is believing they need a complete lifestyle overhaul. They search for the perfect diet, the perfect exercise program, or the perfect supplement before taking the first step. In reality, lasting health rarely comes from one dramatic change. It comes from dozens of small decisions repeated consistently over months and years. That's especially true when it comes to metabolic health. Your body is constantly adapting to the signals you give it. Every meal, every walk, every hour spent sitting, every choice to move instead of remaining still. These small moments accumulate in ways we often fail to notice until months later. So here's the daily routine I recommend to many adults who simply want to support healthy blood sugar management and maintain better energy throughout the day. Start by paying attention to what happens after your meals. If you usually sit down immediately after eating, challenge yourself to replace just 10 to 15 minutes of that sitting time with gentle movement. Some days that may be seated heel raises. Other days it may be a short walk around your neighborhood. If the weather isn't ideal, walk through your home, climb a few flights of stairs, or spend a few minutes doing light household chores. The specific activity matters less than one important principle. Keep your muscles engaged. Next, try paying attention to how you actually feel after meals. Do you stay energized, or do you notice brain fog, sleepiness, sugar cravings, difficulty concentrating? These signals don't automatically mean something is wrong, but they are valuable information. Your body is constantly communicating with you. Learning to recognize those patterns allows you to make smarter decisions long before serious problems develop. Another habit worth considering is discussing your metabolic health during your next routine medical appointment. Many people know their cholesterol numbers. Many know their blood pressure. Far fewer understand their fasting glucose, their hemoglobin A1C, or what those numbers actually mean. If you have a family history of type 2 diabetes, if you've noticed increasing fatigue after meals, or if you've experienced unexplained weight gain around your waist, those are all reasonable topics to discuss with your healthcare provider. Early awareness creates opportunities for early action, and that's exactly where prevention has the greatest impact. If you're already taking prescription medications or nutritional supplements for blood sugar support, don't make changes based solely on something you've seen online. Use educational videos like this one to start informed conversations with your healthcare provider, not to replace professional medical advice. Remember, every person has a unique medical history, different medications, and different health goals. Personalized guidance will always be more valuable than one-size-fits-all advice. Before we finish, I'd like you to remember one final thought. Your metabolism isn't working against you. It's responding to you. Every healthy meal, every time you choose to move, every walk after dinner, every flight of stairs, every small decision sends your body a message. Those messages become habits. Those habits become your health. You don't have to be perfect. You simply have to be more consistent than you were yesterday. If today's video helped you better understand what's happening inside your body, I'd truly appreciate your support. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss future evidence-based health discussions. My goal is to help make complex medical science easier to understand and easier to apply in everyday life. I'd also love to hear from you. Have you ever noticed feeling sleepy, unfocused, or craving something sweet shortly after eating? Or have you already tried walking after meals and experienced a difference? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might encourage someone else to take that first small step toward better health. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I'm Dr. James Carter. Take care of yourself, keep moving, and I'll see you again in the next video.